And here we are. Welcome back to the Retro Sophomore, where we never sit out. We're your hosts, MD and CD. And today, yes, today, are we lazy? No. We're just trying to dip our toes in a little mock draft season. Yep, that's right. These college kids are our college kids until they're in the NFL, right? And until then, we're gonna wish them luck. We're gonna evaluate them. I love NFL draft season. Uh, there's just so much that goes into it, and it's a fantastic time of year. Actual draft night is one of my favorite things ever. Betting on it is awesome because the books don't actually have an advantage over you. It's up to you and your knowledge and your evaluations. So they know as much as we do. So it's like it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So what's going on with you? Are you pumped? I mean, we're only doing 10 spots in this mock draft, but a top 10, that's good enough to get our toes wet, right?
Yeah, I feel pretty good at this point in like my process of scouting and watching, and also just knowing these guys from being a diehard college football fan to come up with 10 teams, and 10 players as a mock draft. Yeah, because eventually we'll work our way to a round, multiple rounds. And if you guys enjoy it, maybe a little team specific stuff or anything like that. So obviously let us know in the comments what we did wrong, what teams you're a fan of, and obviously all that good stuff. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you are new. Like Matthew always says, if you like the content and like the video, please do so. You guys have been awesome. Our channel's growing right now. But we're not done yet. We're hungry for more, and obviously we appreciate all of your support.
Absolutely. And with that being said, I think we should get into it. And I think our number one picks, if I had to guess, were pretty similar. So with the 1-1, CD and I both have Caleb Williams going number one overall. I'll let you start with this one. I mean, this one, do we need to like go into it? Like, okay, how about this? I'll play a little devil's advocate against Caleb Williams, and you give us the Caleb Williams breakdown.
Okay. Oh yeah. So I'll say, obviously, you and I, as you guys may know, we are from Chicago. We are Chicago Bears fans through and through. As tough as it has been, we are still riding with Ryan Poles and everybody there. Yeah, I think it's a time for a change there. I think this is a little bit different than last year. I think last year, I don't know if you were 100% sold on Bryce Young because he was a consensus number one guy. If you thought, hey, he is better, and you still had promise in Fields, you were still figuring it out. You knew you had a really good quarterback class the year after that you were eyeing as well. Obviously, you end up back here again at 1-1. This is a guy you can't pass up on. You've seen not enough development from Justin Fields to warrant passing up on a guy like Caleb Williams, who has been on NFL scouts' radars, drooling over him since that OU Texas game back 3 years ago, his freshman year, when he came in and lit it up to the ground, in the air as well. His arm talent's ridiculous. What more do I have to say? If you're a college football fan, if you're watching this video, you know Caleb Williams. You know how good he is. The only concerns are the off the field stuff. Doing some digging, listening to some interviews and whatnot. I feel like, first of all, Ryan Poles himself is a very character, culture oriented guy. You saw him pass on a guy like Jordan Davis last or Jalen Carter last year, right? And that was part of that was some of the off the field concerns. And comes the guy Darnell Wright, who obviously you nailed it. So I think if Caleb Williams
Both teams
passes
won that
that
trade,
test,
by the way. Both teams won that trade.
yeah, for sure. And Jalen Carter's a stud himself. Obviously, very happy for him to figure it out in the NFL. And obviously, going to the Eagles, every organization is different, right? Like sometimes it's like college when in recruiting, it's like you're gonna go anywhere and you'll be found, right? The NFL will find you, but like getting developed and fitting matters, right? In the NFL. So I think Caleb Williams could come in right away, play super well. He's listed as 6'1". I don't quite know if
That's
he's 6'1".
a
This
stretch.
could, and to be honest, I'm not a huge like measurable guy where like it like makes or break a prospect. Like trust the film. If he does it against everybody in college, like he'll do it in the NFL as well. He'll probably be closer to 6 foot, maybe 5'11". But his hand size looks fine. He throws the ball incredible velocity and touch and layering. Decision making is questionable at times, but also you saw it progress throughout the year. I love Caleb Williams. He is my quarterback one. I think the Bears would be remiss if they passed on him.
Well, I'll play devil's advocate, but I do have Caleb Williams number 1 because I think he's the best quarterback prospect in this draft. Devil's advocate here is Caleb Williams. If you watch what he does the most spectacular things that you will see at the college level for a quarterback. He does those things. But it's also caused him to have some bad habits where he's running around for his life back there and he's not really like I don't know if Caleb Williams can read a defense. Is that crazy? Like I don't know that. I would have to sit down in an interview room and have him break it down for me. I'm just not sure, right? I'm just not sure. I don't know how Lincoln Riley draws that stuff up. It feels like he sits behind the line scrimmage for like forever and waits for his more athletic receivers to just get open. But his ability to scramble, get out of the pocket, makes him dangerous in that sense, and his arm talent is just crazy. So this is a clear 1-1, but he isn't a perfect prospect, right? He's not a perfect prospect, but he is the best quarterback and probably one of, if not the best players in this entire draft. Let's move on. Let's get to number 2. And we both had the same exact pick here. We both took Jayden Daniels, number 2, going to the Commanders. And I liked your reasoning for it, and I actually believe I have an identical reasoning for it as well. So it all has to do with recent news. So, CD, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, for you college diehards, maybe not paying attention to the coaching carousel on the NFL scene. So Cliff Kingsbury, right, former college coach at Texas Tech, was over with Lincoln Riley at USC, and Caleb Williams is over now in Washington for the football team there, or the Commanders. I'm sorry for the Commanders over there. He'll be calling plays as the offensive coordinator, meeting up with Dan Quinn, who's a defensive guy. So obviously Cliff Kingsbury will have control of the offense for a majority part. Yeah, I just think this is not a knock on Drake May. I really like Drake May. I saw him playing against my Gophers. I saw him make plays. This team this year and even last year did not do a lot to help him. And his coaching staff defensively, everything else. For Drake May, they almost wasted him. But what Jayden Daniels does, right, from a standpoint of, first of all, like I love the growth of his game, right? I was a guy that was a noted questioner of his game this offseason. I didn't know if he could throw the deep ball. I didn't know if he could make explosive plays happen in the air, and obviously was completely proven wrong. 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 95 QBR, Heisman Trophy winner. The list goes on and on. And not only does he do that to the air, but on the ground as well is just incredibly explosive and frustrating to tackle and the scheme against. Yeah, this is awesome. I think the RPO stuff that Cliff likes to do, it's not necessarily air raid. In the NFL, he changed it a little bit. He did some RPO, GT counter, and stuff like that with the running game. And Brian Robinson, I think Jayden Daniels fits this super, super well, and giving him the extra running ability, and also like players like Caleb Williams, players like Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, guys who have a little bit more of that athleticism to their game, really thrive in Cliff Kingsbury's system.
I 1000% agree, and I'm not going to repeat everything you just said because it all stands true in my eyes. I think he's a better fit. I also think he's just a really good talent. I mean, he threw the deep ball very effectively this year. Now he had some unbelievable receivers. He had some unbelievable receivers, but let's not pretend like the Commanders don't have receivers. Plus, I happen to like this receiver draft down the board a lot. So, free agency hasn't. I mean, yeah, free agency hasn't even come up upon us. So these mock drafts are going to change ridiculously. Like by the time we get to the actual night, but as of right now, I like Jayden Daniels in that situation. I think his upside is very high because he's insanely athletic. I mean, would appreciate if he put on a little bit more muscle.
And stop running straight up and down.
Yeah, and stop getting decleated because when you get decleated in the NFL, you get uh absolutely stretchered out of there. So I think he'd be really good. So I think Jayden Daniels is probably the second or third best quarterback. I think there's a really big gap there between 3 and 4. So I definitely put him in this tier, this upper tier. And I think, because of the value of the quarterback position, I think he gets taken really, really early and the need of some of these teams at the top of the draft for a quarterback.
Can I ask you a question here? Jayden Daniels, are you worried about his age in terms of, right, you've seen some guys, obviously Drake May, Caleb Williams are 3-year guys, 20, 21 years old. Jayden Daniels is 23. How big of a difference is that for you? Does that scare you away, or does that encourage you in terms of like he was still developing at 22 years old and he can still develop in the NFL?
I mean, there was another Heisman winning quarterback from LSU that was also 23 years old when he came out of the draft. So I'm not worried at all, right? If he can ball, he can ball. If he hits his peak at 27, he hits his peak at 27, right? Just, you know, I think his floor is already pretty high because of how athletic he is. And if you want that window, start really building a team with the not as high of a salary cap, with that rookie quarterback deal, then Jayden Daniels could definitely be a guy to do it. Let's get into our next pick. The Patriots, I think we both have the same one again. That would be Drake May out of North Carolina, the quarterback. I mean, we're talking measurables. We're talking intangibles. We're talking just a very, very good prospect. Very, very good prospect. The argument to be made for Drake May at number one makes a lot of sense. We have him here at 3 because we believe that Caleb Williams is a better prospect, and we also believe that Jayden Daniels is a better fit than Drake May is. Although let's be real, Drake May would do fine probably in that Commanders offense with Cliff Kingsbury. I think Cliff Kingsbury would love a player like Drake May to coach at quarterback for his system. But yeah, if the Patriots are at 3 and Drake May's on the board, I don't care who it is. There will be a quarterback available. The Patriots need to take them. They have to do it. I I don't see any other option here for the Patriots. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think this makes sense. My note here is like you cannot pass up on this. If you cannot keep trotting out Bailey Zapp and what's left of Mac Jones and expect things to change. And obviously, you want to make sure you're getting value here. And this also is fantastic value. A lot of people have Drake May as their 1 or 2 guy in this draft. He's a guy that's had an incredible 2-year run in the NFL. Even though he's in a quarterback competition right up until training camp, obviously beat out Jacoby Griswold, Griswold, whatever name is. He's at Arkansas now. But regardless, yeah, he's I love Drake May. I love this. I think if you're North Carolina or wow, golly, if you are New England, I'm sorry about that. If you are New England, you look at what Houston happened, right? You look what they did and you try to replicate that. You get the quarterback right and you figure everything else out. A guy like CJ Stroud has come in and just completely invigorated that franchise in that city. I think Drake May could do the same here. Maybe not in year 1, but also I think he's pretty darn pro ready. The way you mentioned his arm talent, his strength, sit in the pocket, dice up defenses. Obviously, it helps to improve that passing offense, but also, like you mentioned earlier in the video, this is a pretty deep wide receiver draft. You can get guys in the 2nd and 3rd round, and even early 4th round that are valuable and are guys that can play right away.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think Drake May's really good. And wins is not a quarterback stat, by the way. I mean, sometimes it is in college because they can be so good it can elevate. But like, look at the top 3 guys, right? But which of these 3 won their conference this year? None of them. Which of these 3 won their bowl game for their team? Well, none of them played in their bowl game, right? Which of these teams had double-digit wins this year? None of them. So it's like I've fallen in the trap in the past where it's like, oh, this quarterback didn't win in college, right? They couldn't do it. Oh, look how talented he is, and he couldn't win. I fell into that with Josh Allen. I will not be making that mistake again. So I like all 3 of these quarterbacks at the top. I think they could be all just fine in the league. Let's move on to number 4, and we both have the same one. And I think a lot of people have this as well. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the first wide receiver off the board. What makes this kid special?
Yeah, so he's incredible. Not first of all, wide receiver at Ohio State with massive production. You love that right away. You've seen guys come in the league and ball out there.
So
Marvin
many.
Harrison
So
is no
many.
exception, and he's probably the best out of all of them. He's a guy for 2 years now that has just lit up the Big 12, the Big Ten, and everyone he's gone against. He was the focal point in that offense. Yeah, in his big games, he shows up brightest. You saw him decimate Georgia in a pretty damn good secondary, and then he gets hurt and then lose the game. Right? You saw him actually dice up Michigan, something that Washington struggled to actually do, and he did it with a limited quarterback this year and some other limited playmakers. Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a monster. He's got everything you need. He's 6'3", 6'4", 205 pounds. Can run every single route. He'll run a good number. I bet probably in the 4.4s, low 4.5, which is fine for a guy his size. He's not a burner, right? He's maybe not going to separate and run away from you in terms of run after the catch, but everything before that, he is incredible. And obviously the bloodlines. You talk about it with his dad at the Colts. He is a technician in the NFL in his routes and his craft, and I also the person, the makeup is brilliant. This guy, I think this is the floor for him, right? You never know what's going to happen at the top of the draft because of trading and quarterbacks and whatnot. Who thinks who's better? I don't think Marvin Harrison gets off the board here. Falls through Arizona if he's on the board here, right? He's a guy that in a really, really good receiver core class, he has separated himself as the alpha in that class.
Yes, and if there is a like if the Bears don't end up taking Caleb Williams and they trade down two or three or four, I won't be four, but Marvin Harrison might go sooner, right? He might go two or three. Who
Yeah.
knows? The Bears could shock us and take him one, but I highly doubt that. Highly doubt that because Caleb Williams is highly coveted. Someone will trade up for him if the Bears don't want to take him.
Yeah. How does he stack up against previous number one wide receiver like in their draft class, like Jamar Chase or Jerry Jeudy or Drake London, guys like that?
Um, I'd say like in the last 5 years, that tier one of wide receiver draft prospects probably is like Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle. They were in the same draft class, which is crazy. Marvin Harrison, and I don't know that there's one that's been better than those three, So I that's this is he is in that tier one of wide receiver draft prospects. Like we don't see guys coming out like this with that size, with that athleticism, with those hands, with that body control, with the production, with the playing at the high competition that he did. He was unbelievable. He was actually unbelievable. Now, we'll get into it in a little bit, but I still don't believe they should have won the Blindnikoff. I think he should have won the Blindnikoff last year, is what I think should happen.
Or
I do
Charlie
think that there
Jones.
was another receiver that I thought was the best receiver all season, but not a lot of people share that opinion. So don't I don't think the people that disagree with me are necessarily flawed. But anyways, regardless, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a ridiculous draft prospect. He will be going in the top five. Lock it in. I don't know what the over under is the over under for his draft, like position, probably when that comes out, it probably will be 3.5. Probably be 3.5. So it's basically like, hey, does someone trade up for quarterback for the Bears? Do the Bears trade back or do the Commanders trade back? It's kind of
Or
like,
do the Patriots be like, hey, we'll figure out quarterback next year. This guy's too good to pass on. And that's how good of a prospect he is.
yes, exactly. So let's get into our fifth pick. So we've had the same exact picks, the first four. This is where it gets different, right? With the fifth pick in the Chargers, will be taking Rome Odunze, and you will be taking Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. I think I love Brock Bowers. He's the best tight end in this class, not even close. Why do you like him on the Chargers?
Well, first of all, I love Roma Dunze, right? I think he was a monster for Washington this year. I don't hate the pick. I think we're both thinking the same lines in terms of what the Chargers need and what Jim Harbaugh might attack. But I do think with Harbaugh coming in and with Greg Roman coming, I really think the tight end is such a valued position for both those guys, but also in the NFL. Look at the NFC and AFC championship games that happened this past weekend, right? Or a couple weekends ago, right? It was Sam Laporta, it was Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and George Kittle. Arguably, maybe four of the top five tight ends in the NFL. This position is becoming a premium position. You saw a guy like Kyle Pitts with his just generational prospect size, speed, catch radius ability. Brock Bowers, in a similar sense, is also that good, but also his blocking is incredible. He's the complete package, a true three down tight end. I love it. I wish there was a right tackle here. I think you need right tackle and defense here more than tight end, maybe, but the value isn't quite there right now. I think it's the trade down candidate if you think so, right? But Brock Bowers is, I think, the best player in college football for the past couple of years, right? Like he's right up there with everybody else. And I think the staff will get more out of him than maybe a guy like Kyle Pitts was utilized.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. My thought is like when I look at the rest of the tight ends on the board, like last year it was like quote unquote top heavy, right? You had three guys that were kind of like your top three guys, right? Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer, and Sam Laporta. And Sam Laporta ended up being amazing. Dalton Kincaid was really good. I just think that this tight end class specifically is so deep, dude. I think it's so deep. Cade Stover is a guy that you can get on day two. Theo Johnson, Dallin Holker. Uh, you want a guy like Trey Knox? You want Jared Wiley, Brant Kuth? I mean, Keith, or however you say his name. I I think that this is a very deep tight end class. So I don't think, sure, and the Chargers might be in the market for a tight end. Gerald Everett, older guy, Donald Parham, gigantic human being. I think, yeah, they could be in the market for a tight end for sure. But I like Rome Dunze. Here's why. If you're the Chargers and you're Jim Harbaugh, I think there's more holes on the roster than people think. And I'm not gonna say wide receiver is like a huge problem, although they had big drop problems this past year. But just take the best guy on the board. And to me, at this point, Roma Dunze is the best guy on the board. In my opinion, he should have won the Biletnikoff Award. A 77% contested catch rate. That is absurd. Absurd. Big moments too. In the Oregon game, in the Texas game. Like when you needed something, like he was going to get it and you were not going to deny him of it at all. At all. He was so good this year. He was so good. Deservingly played himself into a top 10 position here on the draft board. And to me, he's as high as five. He's probably like my fifth best prospect on my big board right now. Actually, he might be higher than that. He's probably four. He's probably four if I had to have a big board. He's that good, dude. I really, really, really believe that. And I'm super high on him. I believe he will be a successful wide receiver in the NFL. So, look, Keenan Allen's getting older. Mike Williams is injury prone. Is Quinn Johnston going to work out? There's obviously a need for them last year. They drafted Quinn Johnston, right? So, is Quinn Johnston the guy? I'm not sure. I mean, Jim Harbaugh has seen him before, but Jim Harbaugh's also seen Ronan Dunze. So, it'll be really interesting to see what the Chargers do here, especially with that new coaching regime in there. But let's move on then. Let's move on to our number 6 pick. We both are different again. You go with Malik Neighbors, a wide receiver for the Giants. I mean, certainly a position of need. Wide receiver is for the Giants. I just had to go Jerzon Newton, or Johnny Newton, defensive tackle from Illinois. Well, I want you to explain to me, why did you select Malik Neighbors and why do you think he fits in with the Giants?
Yeah, I thought he was uncoverable, right? I obviously you mentioned how good Roma Dinta was, and yes, he was fantastic. I love Roma Dinta's game for sure. I don't know why I've been infatuated with Malik Neighbors and what he did, like in every single game for an elite offense to be that guy that you always went to. Even though you had BTJ as well, Malik Neighbors was a focus point, and a lot of people questioned him. To me, it was that Alabama game, right? Like a lot of people questioned, like, hey, can he handle press? Can he handle physical corners, long corner, Terry Arnold, Glade McKinstry, guys that might be first round picks, right? He went 10 for 171, right? And a touchdown on the road at Bama, like in a massive game. I think he is a monster. And you look at the Giants wide receiver core right now, like you don't have a ton of hope and potential there. I mean, obviously Jalen Hyatt's a guy that came with a little bit of buzz, being a former Blitnikoff winner himself, I believe. But these two players, while they might look similar, they're totally different players. I think Malik Neighbors, I think you could use them in all three levels of the field in short game, in intermediate crossing routes, and also obviously deep balls. Jalen had some more of like a run after catch guy or a deep ball guy. You want to get in space, but obviously everywhere else on that roster, I think needs a lot of help. And if you're gonna invest, I didn't love the quarterbacks here, right? Obviously, if I don't know if you love Daniel Jones. You still have with him for one more year. You might as well make it work. And if you're Brian DeBall, you got to win some football games this year. And I think Malik Neighbors does that more than anybody else on the board.
Look, in my opinion, I think Malik Neighbors has had, like, I like Brian Thomas's upside higher than I like Malik Neighbors' upside, to be honest. I think Malik Neighbors is a really, really good wide receiver. He separates. Everything you said is true. I personally think he has. Is he going to go up and get you a ball against an NFL corner? Is he going to do that? I don't know that he is
Yeah,
consistently.
yeah, but also like how many of them are like I don't know. I think Well, first of all, I think he'll separate better than BTJ will, anyways. So he'll put himself in better spots. But yeah, that is a very important part of it. But I don't know. I was still impressed with it when I watched him. I think he can do it and grow into it. But he's 6 foot, 200 pounds. He'll listed as that. He'll probably be a little bit smaller than that. But I think you can beef him up and get him a little bit better in contact, and to play through that.
No, I mean he's not leaving the top 10 for me. I'm not saying he's not a top 10 player. I just like Johnny Newton here. Now they're switching up D coordinators. They're going away from Wink Martindale. They're going to Shane Bowen. He's gonna be running a base 3-4. So we'll see how he fits in here. But man, could you imagine that interior with Dexter
Yeah.
Lawrence and Johnny Newton? And the thing was like, I have Johnny Newton in my top 10 for sure. Like he's that good, man. My issue is, where? Like who should take him? And I value interior defensive linemen, especially at the NFL level, like way more than I think a lot of people do. So I like this right here. This feels like this feels right. I don't know like if he's playing a 3 technique or if you're having him play a 5 technique. I don't know what you would have him do, or move him around, whatever it is to fit around Dexter Lawrence. But geez, if you could take some heat off Dexter Lawrence, any at all, gosh, that would be absurd. That'd be absurd. So I just think this would be a disgusting pairing in the middle there. Again, they're running base 3-4, so I mean we'll see how they're actually able to rotate guys in there if they were to do this. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, and who knows who they get in free agency too? Like they might get another interior guy, and then that would point me in the direction of okay, they're probably not going interior defensive lineman in the top 10 here. So
I really liked Johnny Newton. I love him actually, and I tried so hard to get him in the top 10. Couldn't quite see it. I do think your point stands though that the D line interior is a little bit undervalued. I do agree with you in terms of that. I value it more than others, but I think at the top end, if you can get an elite guy, I think there are a ton of replaceable guys in the interior defensive lineman in the NFL in general, right? But you can get an elite guy that can really do some damage, rushing the passer, but also like taking on double teams. Like that is where you get your value, and that's where you get your Aaron Donalds, your Dexter Lawrence's, guys that break open games. And I'm not saying he's going to be one of those guys, but I think he's good enough to do that. You saw him in college. I mean, he dominated for multiple years at Illinois. I mean, he got suspended for the first half of the Minnesota game on a questionable call that led to them actually losing a game. But anyways, yeah, he came in. We ran the ball in the first half, and then Minnesota could not run the ball in the second half, and that was strictly because of Johnny Newton. And you saw us scheme against him because it was so hard to run into the teeth of him. Yeah, no, I like this a lot. I just think Malik Neighbors, in terms of winning more games, is the right guy. But also, I wouldn't be happy if I'm a Giant. I would not be happy. I would not be happy if I'm a Giants fan with Johnny Newton.
yeah, I just like even if you have a plus level guy in the interior, like remember the Bears defense with Akeem Hicks and how
Oh
like
yeah,
literally how important he was. Like Christian Wilkins is like he's a plus guy. Like I just think like you can get a plus defender on the interior. It's a game changer, man. Your linebackers can do so much more. I mean, it opens up your defense entirely. So I'm sure they would be insanely excited about that. Let's go to number 7. We both said Joe Alt, and this is because there's a need for at tackle for them bad, very, very badly. Yeah, sure, they drafted Peter Skronsky really high, but they moved him to guard, so which we kind of projected. I mean, he had shorter arms. He profiled more as a guard, even though he played tackle in Northwestern. I'm sure he'd be fine at tackle, but they need a tackle bad. His name is Joe Alt. I actually struggle with like who I actually think is the best tackle, and I'm gonna have to do some more diving into it, but I guess the chalky thing to say is Joe Alt is the best tackle in this class, probably. But I don't know. We'll see. My opinion might change in the next couple of weeks here, but they desperately need a tackle. In terms of my evaluations currently, right now, I have Joe Alt higher than the other tackles. Feels like a no-brainer.
to be honest, I think Joe Alt. There's a bigger gap between Joe Alt and Olu versus Olu and whoever your OT3 is. Right, Tyus Fuaga, Amaris Mims, a guy like Jordan Morgan, even JC Latham. I I love this pick and this fit. If he comes to you at 7, I think you sprint up the board and you get it out. I wanted to put him there at 6 of the Giants, but I think they're going to run it back one more year with Evan Neal and see if that works. If not, kicking in the guard. And you've got a guy from Connecticut that I'm forgetting his name, but I like him a little bit as well as like a swing tackle guy. So you have depth there. If you're the Giants, and obviously you mentioned the Titans need tackle badly. He's a monster. I think you run up the board with this, and also like Brian Callahan's coming over from the Bengals. Like you know how important it is to protect your quarterback if you are the Bengals and to get O line figured out. I thought about Rome Odunze here with receivers, and I tried to fit, but I also just could not let a potential Pro Bowl, All Pro tackle go from Notre Dame and Joe Alt.
Yeah, this feels like the right pick. I think we nailed this one. All right. Our next pick at 8 for the Falcons. This is where I have Malik Neighbors going. I think he'd fit really well in here. Obviously, no more Arthur Smith. So I think a guy like Malik Neighbors will thrive better in an offense where, you're actually getting your playmakers balls in the space or balls in space. So, but it'll be interesting. I mean, like, will the Falcons trade up? Like, will they trade for Justin Fields? I don't know. I don't know what they'll do about the quarterback situation going in the offseason. But Malik Neighbors is very, very good. I'm not sure there are a ton of players that are better than him at this point that you could get, but uh, if you really like Malik Neighbors and you're the Falcons, I think it probably is appropriate to take him. You have Dallas Turner, and I love this pick too, by the way. I love this pick. So let me hear what you have to say about Dallas Turner and why you like him on the Falcons.
To be honest, the only thing that scared me away from this pick was they're switching up their scheme, I believe, or I believe they're going to be running a 4-3, right? They're bringing in Jimmy Lake as defensive coordinator. And I guess we are a college football podcast. So you guys know that Jimmy Lake, that name, obviously once a hot named defensive coordinator in the college football. It made his way to the NFL, was with the Rams, I believe. And it'll bring his Tampa 2 over to the Falcons to pair up there with Raheem Morris, who's also defensive head coach. I think, to be honest, like, yes, I liked going wide receiver here, Rome Odunze, maybe, but I think there's enough playmakers offensively. Bijan Robinson, hopefully they maximize Kyle Pitts. Drake London's really emerging as a pretty darn good wide receiver in this league. I think you just get it right. If you are a defensive coach, like don't mess this pick up and get a guy with value position that can play, multiple things. He can do multiple things for you, stopping the run, rushing the passer. And that's Dallas Turner to me, right? I don't think I think this is about as safe as you can go defensively, right? And I think he's a guy that still has a ton of potential to untap, and even I think they can get the best out of him. But what I love about Turner is the way he stops the run and his effort in the run game. To me, it was what really impressed me this year. I was like, how is he going to be down in and down out, getting all the attention from opposing offensive linemen in the SEC without a year removed from having a guy like Will Anderson opposite to him? And I think, right, part of that motor that made you love Will Anderson kind of transferred his way over to Dallas Turner, and I loved what he did. Right, the physicality he played with, obviously knocking out some quarterbacks and some, I guess, questionable calls, but regardless, it was just physical play. What I thought was what impressed me about it. So, yeah, Dallas Turner, I love this for him for the Falcons at 8.
I think it is really close between like the edge defenders, like who is the best. Like I think Jared Verse is up there. I think Leatu Latu. I think both those guys are up there as well in that tier one. I do like Dallas Turner. He's probably my favorite edge in this class as well for a lot of the same reasons. Leatu Latu though he's up there too, man. I like him a lot. But yeah, this is a good fit for him as well. I think he'll succeed anywhere you go. If you get a good edge defender, like they will fit in whatever defense you want them to be in. As long as you keep them on the edge and find ways to get them 1-on-1 with a tackle. Right. That's what you got to do. So I like that as long as they can get him going. I like that a lot. Yeah, but back to Malik Neighbors. I mean, look at the Falcons depth chart. I mean, it's Drake London, it's Van Jefferson, and Scotty Miller, right? So I
Hey,
think.
don't forget about Matt Collins. We love some Matt Collins on this
Oh
show.
yeah, we love Matt Collins. So I think that there's room to get another talent there. And if you can get like kind of a core three in there, right? Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Malik Neighbors, and then add Bijan to the mix. I mean, that's a young core of really, really nice talent that you can keep there for a while for cheap while, they start searching for a quarterback. Maybe they get a quarterback in free agency. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of good ones out there in the market, but who knows? Who knows what they do? At 9 with the Bears, their second pick in the top 10. I'm gonna go with Dallas Turner here because they need some pass rush. Now, yes, they traded for Montez Sweat, but if you have another edge defender that can actually produce, by the way, that defense completely changed when they made that trade for Montez Sweat. Completely changed.
Yeah.
Turn around big time. Like third down was a big issue for the Bears the last couple of years because they have not been able to get the pressure they need to. I guess I should say more last year. They've not been able to get the pressure that they needed to get last year and beginning this year. But then getting Montez Sweat changed that completely. Get another edge defender in there. Yeah, you could say like, oh, get another receiver in there. The receiving room is pretty good as it is. Plus, I like the receivers down the board. Get one of those tier one edge defenders. Just get one, whether it's Dallas Turner or Leatu Latu. I don't have a preference over either one, but I'll take Dallas Turner in this specific mock draft right here. And you have Jackson Powers Johnson, the center from Oregon. Yeah, center is a desperate need for the Bears. And he is by large head and shoulders above everyone else, the best center in this class. But center at top 10. We know that positional value is a thing. We saw with the first center off the board last year, John Michael Schmitz, was he picked 63rd overall or 62nd overall? 61, something like that.
Yeah, and Creed Humphrey, another guy that went late. Tyler Linderbaum went late. I do think Jackson Powers Johnson, some of those guys had question marks, right? He has none, right? He's a younger guy, he still has time to develop, but he's big, he's long, he's athletic. He dominated the Senior Bowl. He was a huge riser in that. Everyone knew how good he was already, but he really elevated and cemented his status as a monster. This is a massive need for the Bears. I love the Dallas Turner pick. If he was there available at 9, that would have been it. Probably is a little bit too high for a center to go at 9, but at the same time, like you just like Ryan Poles is a little bit unconventional in with what he does, and like I don't know, I just kind of love it. I just love the fit here. He seems like a Ryan Poles guy, and obviously, what better to pair Caleb Williams with with than a wide receiver, right? But also, how about a center and be the guy that's going to be there protecting him for years to come.
Yeah, Ryan Poles, he likes to throw darts. And what that means is like if he has a position of need, he's going to throw as many darts as possible in that particular draft. He's going to trade back. He's going to acquire picks. He's going to throw a bunch of darts. 2 years ago, it was Braxton Jones, right? They drafted 3 tackles like late, and Braxton Jones ended up starting day one. He was okay. The following year, they were like, we really need interior defensive help, right? So they drafted Javon Dexter. They drafted uh, South
Zach
Carolina,
Pickens.
Sam Pickens, and then they drafted Billings from Kennesaw State. And they ended up all kind of being okay in their own ways, right? Javon Dexter particularly was really good. So those darts, you're hoping to hit one. So who's to say you take Jackson Powers Johnson here, you could see yourself drafting another interior offensive lineman down the road as well. I could see him throwing darts like that. I could see him throwing darts at edge defender this year. It'll depend. We'll see what position Poles decides to throw darts at this year, but it definitely could be one of those two. Let's get to the Jets at pick 10, our last pick, and we both have Olu Fashanu, our number 2 tackles in this class. Tackle's a big position of need for the Jets. Olu's probably the best tackle on the board at this point. Probably. So we just have him here. I do have questions about him though. Like we'll see what our mock drafts look like in like a month from now. Because like he might not be in my top 10. He might not be in my top 15, but I don't know. Because there are times where I'm like, wow, like he's the only person on this Penn State offensive line that's mauling people. And there are other times where I'm like, okay, like he didn't dominate the way that I thought he would dominate this game. So I don't know. I have my question marks about him, but I'm okay right now. This is our first mock draft. This is a warm up. Who cares? People are going to call us idiots, regardless if this is our first or last mock draft. So I'm just going to throw that dart there. So why do you like Olu Fashanu?
Well, I think in this scenario, you mentioned the need of tackle for the Jets. Like they have needs kind of on both sides. I think Elijah Vera Tucker's more of a guy you like to kick inside. And you have Mekhi Becton who cannot stay healthy, and Dwayne Brown who also struggled to stay healthy as well. And Olu, his size speed combination, he can play left or right tackle. I think, he's athletic enough to figure out both. So that's why I took him over a guy like Tyrese Fuaga, who I believe is more on the right side and being viewed as the right tackle. Him, J.C. Latham, Amaris Mims, all guys, in the teens area. of tackles that are probably right side only. But Olu gives you the flexibility and obviously the athleticism and untapped potential. He's a guy that if he would have went last year, would also have been a top 10 pick. I don't know how much, like you said, I don't know how much he did to actually improve his draft stock. I don't know if it's prospect fatigue
I
or
don't
if
think that he
it's
did.
he actually
I think
he actually regressed.
I
I
think
don't know exactly what happened there. Regardless, though, I think he's pretty darn good prospect and like he's a very O line, like you're gonna struggle early no matter what, pretty much, unless you're a guy like Quentin Nelson that just comes in as all pro already. Olu with the clay, he can develop him, get in a good system, and obviously you need to protect Aaron Rodgers, like that is, or whoever's back there, right? Presumably Aaron Rodgers comes back healthy, you gotta protect him.
yeah. It's just so odd that like I think the Jets, like when I look at the names in the Jets offensive line, I'm like, this is okay, but it was not good enough last year. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was hurt in like this first play, second play of the season, so tough. Yeah, they're gonna try to protect Aaron Rodgers for sure. But yeah, I mean, thank you guys so much. This is our mock draft. This is our first one of the year. So I'm excited to talk more NFL draft as we get closer to that. Make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at the Redshirt Soft. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it on the graphic. If you're listening on Spotify, thank you so much. Make sure you guys follow us on Spotify and give us a 5-star rating. If you're watching on YouTube, you know the deal. If you like the content, like the video, if you want to see more of this, make sure you subscribe as well. And we can't wait to see you guys more. Let us know how we did in the comments. Who won? I don't know if there's a winner in these things, but I mean, come draft day, we'll see. We'll see who comes closer. Me or you. We'll see who comes closer. Last year I won. But that was mostly because I nailed the Mozzie Smith and the Cowboys, so that was gigantic. Yeah,
Yeah. That was not, yeah, no. Thanks for guys for watching. Stick around to the end. Like Matthew said, like and subscribe. But comment below. Like, let us know what you think of our video. Let us know what if you want us to do more NFL draft content, more team specific things, top 10 position breakdowns, stuff like that. And obviously we'll be happy to get to it eventually. But yeah, we love the NFL draft. We love college football, and it kind of merges all together, and that's why we're doing it and covering it for you guys.
absolutely. Thank you guys, and we will see you in the next one.